What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Eben Flow podcast. I hope this finds you in your highest greatness on this magnificent day we have before us. Very excited to share with you this episode of the Eben Flow. This is, in fact, the very first time we're getting a video version of this podcast, so I'm very excited to share that with you. This was a fantastic conversation, empowering, inspiring, mind expanding. I had such a good time with my guest, Terri Smith, who is the Chief Cultivation Officer of Wake Network, otherwise known as the Magical Fungi Company. Now, this is a very significant conversation because this marks the initiation, if you will, of my partnership with Wake Network. Wake Network is a medicinal and psilocybin mushroom bioscience company focused on product creation and therapeutic integration to revolutionize mental and physical well-being. Very exciting. These guys are cutting edge, and there's tons of synergy between how I live my life, what I believe in, and what these guys are doing and what these guys are all about. So I'm really stoked about this partnership that we have just forged. Terri is an incredible human being. She really reminds me of the Oracle from the Matrix. I mean, she's so powerful, insightful, wise. She's a master mushroom cultivator. She leads a women's empowerment initiative across Jamaica, teaching women how to cultivate micro farms. She is regarded as the treasure of mushroom cultivation in Jamaica. As you will hear in this episode, growing mushrooms in Jamaica has really never been done before. And so Terri had to revolutionize and engineer very specific cultivation practices to do what she's done. And she grows everything from, her and her group of women grows everything from oyster mushrooms to psilocybin. And it's awesome. We had such a ball. As you guys may or may not know, I'm a huge fan of medicinal mushrooms. In fact, um, I don't really take many supplements. I'm not a guy who I'm interested in keeping it as simple as possible. However, medicinal mushrooms have been a part of my daily practice, my daily routine for the last 4 years or so. And these guys have some of the best products I've ever tried. They've got a lion's mane, they've got cordyceps, they've got reishi, they've got turkey tail, and they've also got a comprehensive health blend of cordyceps, lion's mane, and turkey tail. Now, these products, you may or may not be familiar with medicinal mushrooms and what they do. These are not psychedelic. They are, in fact, magical, though. I will say that. Lion's mane is incredible for brain health. It's fantastic for your neuroplasticity, for healing brain cells, for interconnection in the brain, etc. It's one of my favorites. I use it as much as possible, just about every day. Turkey tail is fantastic for your immune system. Reishi is a great adaptogenic. All of these are adaptogenic, which means they help modulate your body's nervous system. Reishi in particular is fantastic for dealing with stress, for helping you sleep, etc. Cordyceps is one of the great energy boosters in the plant kingdom. It helps oxygenate the blood. It's a breath support, great for before workouts, etc. I love it as well. Great for mind energy. Um, and the comprehensive health is a nice package of all those. So, with that, lucky for you guys can head over to wake.net, use code Eben Flow to get 10% off and free shipping on your next order. Really excited to share that with you guys. This is a great episode. You're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to get a lot out of it as well. I hope you enjoy the video version of this. Before I send you off, our other sponsor, invadercoffee.com. If you love good coffee, no place better than invadercoffee.com. Head over there, use code the Eben Flow to get 15% off your next order. Can't say enough about it. It's organic, it's air roasted, it's low acidity, it's veteran owned. It is awesome stuff. I look forward to it every day. So that's about it, y'all. Hey, the greatest way you can show me and this podcast support, rate it, review it, subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast or now watch it. That just does wonders for me and the expansion of this message. I greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your support. Lots of love to you. Have a powerful day. And I'll see y'all on the flip side. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Eben Flow podcast. I'm your host, Eben Britton. Very excited to be with you on this magnificent day we have before us. I have a fantastic guest who's about to drop some serious knowledge and wisdom on y'all. She is the Chief Cultivation Officer of Wake Network. Her name is Terri Smith. Terri, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ab. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Thank you so much for being here and for being you. And, we got to know each other a little bit on a phone call a couple of weeks back. And you are such a light. And I feel so privileged to have you share your life experience and your passion with us today on the podcast.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this too.
That's excellent. So, Terri, you are the fancy term Chief Cultivation Officer. You're really a master mushroom grower. You're also the CEO of Wake Jamaica. And you have such a fantastic life story and how you got into mushrooms. I would love for you to kick this thing off. Share with my listeners how you got introduced to mushrooms, your path into the mycelial world.
I often think that I didn't get to mushroom got to me. It really came about that it presented itself as a solution to a lot of things. I was working with a group of women in Jamaica, having returned to Jamaica to care for my 104-year-old grandfather who had actually raised me. And at 104, Gramps was just still all there. He was still farming. He was still doing a lot of things. And I noticed that a lot of the fruit trees I had grown up with as a child had been eliminated by the farmers. There was an overuse of Roundup, there was an overuse of fertilizer, and they had chopped down a lot of the trees. So I started a project with my little women's group to plant fruit trees. But then the women said to me, hey, planting fruit trees is a nice idea, but it takes 3 to 5 years before you can eat anything of it. We need something that is going to be faster. And so that was how, what food can you grow in a space of 3 to 5 weeks and have something of value? So mushroom just presented itself as, hey, here's a solution. Not only that, but Jamaica is very hilly. Over 90% of the landscape is covered with limestone. And so there's not a lot of things that, you don't have a lot of flat lands. So in Canada, where you can grow wheat and hay and that sort of stuff, you don't have those options in Jamaica. So once we decided that mushroom was going to be the product of choice that we could concentrate on, because my women didn't need to have land. That's the magical thing about becoming a mushroom cultivator
Mm,
and why it can change lives in developing countries. We needed to then struggle to find what are we going to feed the mushroom on, because every pound of mushroom that you grow, whether that is psilocybin mushroom or that is edible mushroom or functional mushroom, every pound of mushroom needs its own pound of food. You
mm,
can't replant it. It's not something you put in the earth and then you dig it up and then you use the same spot, because the mushroom literally consumes the food the same way an animal does. You feed a horse or a cow some grass, and when it's finished eating, it converts that grass into muscle. Well, that is what mushrooms do. You
mm,
feed the mushroom new substrate, and when it's finished consuming, it pays you back by producing a fruiting body. And so finding the right thing to feed the mushroom was a really wonderful challenge.
mm. And your husband is a mycologist,
He's
right?
he's when you're gonna start a mushroom empire, you need a few people. And if you're in a developing country that does not have a mushroom culture, then you need an engineer. Lucky for me, he's a triple engineer, and you also need a mycologist, and you also need someone to be terribly in love with you and in because you're going to go on a journey that at times is going to be heartbreaking,
Mm,
because there were months there when everything failed.
mm,
We had bamboo, and there are thousands upon thousands of hectares of bamboo in Jamaica, and lemongrass will grow anywhere. But those were the abundant grasses that we had available to use to grow the mushrooms. But both of those grasses have some properties that could actually attack the mushroom you're trying to grow. So
mm,
you have to first make sure that the antifungal properties are under control. So, and you fail a lot.
mm.
I think that was what I learned most. You fail a lot with mushrooms, but there is a little bit, when you make a little bit of a success, then it feels lovely.
Oh my God, I'm sure, especially as you were doing it out of necessity to, create opportunities for the women in your community.
Well, very quickly, it went from just creating opportunities for the women to where we sank our retirement savings account and sold our lovely home in Oakville, Ontario. That was like pride of place in our life. It was that place we're supposed to take the grandkids to, and it had everything set up. My husband was very proud of the fact that he had done everything on his to-do list in the house. He had the wine cellar done and the
Mm.
pen garden in the back, and all of that was done. And I come to him and say, "Hon, I think we maybe want to consider selling the house." So you make a bunch of sacrifices. So very quickly, it became more than just wanting to do anti-poverty, you know,
Mm.
income and food security project. It became our life, and then
Uh-huh.
my ego was invested in it because there were just so much failure, and everybody told us it couldn't be done. And I
Mm.
mean everybody. Government officials says it couldn't be done. We would go to meetings and people would say, many people have tried it before, it can't be done. Friends would say it can't be done. My family would say we're being crazy. Why not just go back to Canada and get a job as an engineer, and you go and you're both educated. So it took a lot. It took a lot of, but once we were down that road, the mushrooms would reward us.
Mm.
Because even the failures are such beautiful colors. Like we went through a
Mm,
period of being affected by mold,
mm,
and we didn't know that the people who grow the wheat in America actually program different molds into the wheat as their
mm,
way of you know, keeping down the vegetation when they plant it. So first you had to extract those mold out of the actual grains you were working with. And mushroom molds have very sexy names like lipstick molds and you know, and dog vomit, and you really great names. So you would wake up and you think, oh my God, what is this? And your whole a whole batch of mushrooms would just have this really awful looking thing on it. And then when you check with people like Stameth, then you go, yep, that's dog vomit mold, you
mm,
know, or it'll be bright red. And so that is lipstick mold. And so we learned.
mm.
And what I can say is that we never got bored along the way.
Well, that's good. I'm sure you didn't. But
Yeah.
I think that, you know, in everything in life, you learn so much from your failures and when things don't work out the way you thought or expected them to, and you have to adjust and learn from the process to, you know, make it successful.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was a very valuable time. I'm curious, Terri, in a traditional mushroom grow, what do mushrooms grow on? Like, how are they cultivated? And then tell me about the process, how you reinvented that process to make it work for you guys in Jamaica.
Well, in North America and Europe, uh, you have lumber industries. You
Mm,
have maple and oak and elm and birch and all of these lovely hardwood. Mushroom tends to love to grow. If you leave it in the wild, it grows on hardwood.
mm.
Well, Jamaica doesn't have any hardwood. They are, yeah, let's start there. We have no hardwood. Mushroom loves straw. If you look at what happens in China and India and those places, they have paddy straws. They have
Mm,
the leftover waste from feeding animals straw. Well, in order to have lots of straw, you need lots of flat lands. Most of Jamaica is mountainous, it's hilly, it's you don't have places to run tractors to grow hay and
mm,
grass in large quantities. We also don't have very, very large pieces of land that are flat that we use to do anything except grow sugar cane. So no straw, no hardwood. The other thing that you tend to grow mushrooms in North America and Europe on is bran.
mm,
And that is the waste from wheat and rice and soybean.
mm.
Oh, Jamaica grows yellow yam and green banana. And so we don't. So if you're going to build a mushroom industry, you have no lumber industry. So you have no sawdust, you have no wheat straw, you have no bran. What are you going to feed the mushroom with?
Mm,
You know, so um, we had to find something. What we did have in Jamaica are thousands of hectares of bamboo,
mm,
which is a weed crop. And we noticed in just being observant, we noticed that there were certain mushrooms that would be growing on bamboo as they lay decaying.
mm,
And then we also realized that of all the tall grasses, lemongrass, you just take a piece of lemongrass and stick it on the side of the hill, and in 6 to 8 weeks it would have established itself and it grew really fast, and it held the hillside back from slipping away. So what Ronald had to do was to find ways of subtracting the citronella. Because what makes lemongrass smells like lemongrass is it is dense with citronella oil.
Mm,
So, but that citronella oil will kill insect, it keeps mosquitoes away, but it will also have an impact on the mushrooms you're trying to grow, the
mm,
mycelium stage. So we had to find a way to process the lemongrass so that it became friendly towards the mushrooms we wanted to grow and not attack it. Then with the bamboo has a coating on it. You've never seen a wrinkly bamboo because it has a nice shine. It has a lot of collagen in it.
mm,
So we had to find a way to process the bamboo and make the bamboo behave like sawdust.
mm,
In the end, we found that bamboo and lemongrass together were pretty good, um, really good partner.
mm,
And with a few other little supplements, we were able to find that sweet spot where a wide cross section of forest mushrooms, which range from psilocybin all the way back to oyster mushroom that are edible, they all took to wanting to grow on that proprietary substrate.
mm. That's so interesting. I think that just that process and how you had to go about figuring out what the mushroom wanted to grow on or would thrive on in that environment. I think that's really fascinating.
But they
Um,
say need is the mother of invention. Like
yes.
we didn't have a choice. We were in a situation where we had 50 acres of bamboo,
Mm,
and bamboo is a weed.
yeah.
Nothing if you cut one bamboo pole down, the bamboo gets really annoyed and it shoots up 5 new bamboo poles.
Uh-huh.
And within 18 months, you have replaced the one you chopped down with 5 new poles. It's aggressive. It's an invasive species. I have no idea who brought bamboo to Jamaica because it's not native to Jamaica. So we had a problem. We had a problem with the bamboo. And it takes a lot to get rid of a root of bamboo. So the environment pushed us towards doing what needed to be done. But also, mushroom has a built-in intelligence of its own.
Uh-huh.
Mushroom leads you to where you need to go. If you listen
Mm.
to it, if you get your ego out of the way, mushroom will talk to you. And I don't just mean psilocybin, that does that too, but 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 it will talk to you. You'll find the cordyceps, you want to grow cordyceps and you're trying to figure out what you could feed it, then you
Mm-hmm.
need to go down by the river and you need to look at the chunks of wood in the middle of the river, because that's where the cordyceps is growing. That's what
Mm.
it's growing on the logs that have been so soaked that is sitting
Mm.
there. So when you then take it out of that environment, you now must understand that this is a species that needs a lot of water.
Mm.
And if you want to do turkey tail naturally, then you walk and you look at it and you find the turkey tail and you go, oh, this is growing at this temperature and it likes a little bit of warmth and it likes to get a little bit of sun. And so when you create that environment in your grow room, you need to mimic what it does in nature. So
Mm.
it's about listening, it's about
Mm.
watching, it's about being humble, because the fungi will talk to you. It will, and when it's happy, you're happy, and then you build a better product.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that message so much. That's a big one for me in this stage of my life, is to listen more to everything. Listen to the wind, listen to the vibration in the air, and listen to mushrooms. So it's different. So that was, you sort of went into my next question. It's just, it's so interesting to me how, this is not the same as, planting a fruit tree or having a vegetable garden. The
No.
mushrooms really have a deep intelligence and are like they are a living organism.
Uh, Yeah, and you have to remember that without fungi in the world, we'd be all covered up under a whole mountain of organic matter, because
Mm,
its place in the universe is to return to its original state, everything. So when a leaf falls,
mm,
is three or four different types of mushrooms that attack that leaf and breaks it down. And when a mushroom is finished breaking something down, it returns it to that original soil.
mm,
So there are, when you feed a mushroom, when you try to cultivate and you feed a mushroom, if you have a 8-pound grow bag, once that has been inoculated and colonized and you start to reap mushroom from that, every pound of mushroom you take off of an 8-pound grow bag, the weight of the grow bag diminishes.
mm,
So you're literally, and what people don't understand, you're literally taking waste matter and converting it into a high value, high nutritious product.
mm.
So it literally eats it, just like an animal
I
eats
see.
the raw material. Mushrooms eat that raw material and produce a fruiting body.
So the fungi literally displaces whatever it is growing on.
That's it. And
Wow.
so if you leave it, say you could drop some oyster mushroom spawn in a pile of leaves, and it will convert that pile of leaves into mushroom and soil.
Mm,
So
wow.
if you leave it there in about 10, 12 weeks, what you're going to find, it goes black, and the mushroom comes up and dies back into it, and what you will end up with is soil.
Wow.
So fungi offers a solution not only for making the body better or helping the brain to be better, but it is one of those things that offer the environment an opportunity. It will clean up waste. There are strains of mushrooms that will consume oil spill
Wow.
and make things work again.
Um, so talk a little bit about the first mushrooms you guys grew and how that's evolved and what the operation looks like today.
Oh, the first mushrooms we grew, we weren't trying to grow them. We
Oh
were,
my God.
you know, we we would get so excited. We made grow bags and we inoculated, and then you'll get inky spots. It
Mm,
was we weren't trying to grow those, but eventually we figured out how to grow oyster mushrooms,
mm,
and we got very excited because it- the oyster mushroom is an absolute lovely, lovely, lovely medicinal gourmet mushroom.
mm,
And we kept playing around with it so we could make them thicker, we could make them bigger, we could make oyster mushrooms the size of a dinner plate that could be grilled like a portobello, or we could make fine, really delicate mushrooms. And so for a long time, that's the mushroom we played with a lot, because we found out that we could grow it under a number of different environments. We also handed it out around the country. We had social media competitions where you could just write in and you could get a mushroom grow bag sent to you. And
mm.
then the only thing you had to do, you had to tell us how it stood up to the heat in Kingston or the sea breeze in Montego Bay. So we were sending grow bags all over the island and collecting data in a very, very low tech way.
Mm.
So you get a grow bag, you get to eat the mushrooms, but send and tell us how it works. Put up a picture on social media, send us your questions. And so that was the first type of mushroom we started to grow and we were successful with. And very quickly, the fancy hotels would say, we want your mushroom. And at that point, we started out selling mushrooms at $35 a pound.
Mm.
And for the ladies who were helping to grow it, this was exciting
Mm.
because they could grow, minimum wage is $50 a week in Jamaica.
Wow.
And if you could sell 2 pounds of fresh mushrooms to a local, upper middle class person, you were bumping out of the minimum wage category. So it became very attractive. And also, it was a way for my ladies to supplement their protein intake. And so they started doing amazing things with it. They would cook oyster mushrooms with, salted codfish. They would cook it with, we eat a lot of chicken, the
Mm.
leftover bits in North America. When they cut the breast and the legs off in North America, they export the back, which is just mostly bones, to the
Mm.
Caribbean and Africa. And so my ladies found a way to use those chicken bones to cook with mushrooms, and the children didn't even know they were eating mushrooms. So that was
Mm.
our first success. Then we started getting into the medicinals and we started working with psilocybin.
Mm. Amazing. Now, did that come when you was that part of the natural process, or did that come when you met Nick and you started on this journey of creating clinics and therapeutic retreats for people to come to?
Well, if anybody have met Nick, they know that it's kind of like the blonde wind that blows into in the room and then just shifts a lot of things. So
I love
I
that.
I, I think we were on the way because before we met Nick, there was an awful lot of people from all over the world that somehow found me.
Mm.
The work I had been doing with my social enterprise, the things the women were doing, the media in Jamaica had been very supportive of our income and food security projects. And so they could, when you Googled mushrooms in Jamaica, you would end up finding some story of some kind about what we were doing. And Nick came to us in the middle of a whirlwind of people coming. Cannabis was going through a difficult time, and
Mm.
there were the large cannabis companies were starting to look elsewhere, and they realized that there was an ambiguous situation around the legality of consuming and cultivating psilocybin in Jamaica. So you had people from Belgium, from London, from all
Mm.
over the world that was coming. And so they would show up at my farm. Some of them would show up in the middle of the night, which is,
Whoa.
yes, my farm is in very rural Jamaica. I remember a lawyer, a lawyer from Oregon and a soldier showing up at 10:30 in the night, and they sent their taxi back. And when I asked them where they were staying, they asked me to point them to a provincial and state park. I said, you're not in Canada, so there's no provincial park. And you're not in America, so there's no state park. Yeah, I can't just send you to people's field to go camp out. But, so it was from the ridiculous to the obscene that these people were showing up. And
Wow.
so Nick came in one of those,
Uh-huh.
he, he came and but he kind of was a little different. You know, when you go to the
Mm.
pet shop and there's all of these Bichon puppies, and then there's all kind of other stuff, but you catch the eye of one of them, you know, and you
Yeah.
go, why doesn't that one quite fit in? You know,
Yes.
so we were already looking at we were growing a little bit of psilocybin, and
Mm.
we were talking to a lot of people offering ridiculous amount of money, wanting to partner,
Mm.
and you know, they would say anything and lots of stuff. This was a period where we met countesses and princes and uh,
Wow.
world leaders and folks who ran billion-dollar company. And then there was Nick.
I love that. I
Yes.
love it.
So he came along with other people, but very quickly distinguished himself from all of them by just really being Nick. You know, like
Yeah.
you're in rural Jamaica up in the hills, and you have all these white folks. Some of them with weird accent because they're German or they're, you know. And then there is Nick, and Nick takes his shoes off, and he's got big feet, and Nick's running barefoot. You know, other people want to talk about, you
Yeah.
know, how important they are, and then there is Nick, barefoot, running around, drinking coconut water, and laughing too much. It's like, why is this guy laughing like that? So
That's our guy.
that's our guy. I wanted to know what the hell that was about. And very quickly, we became friends. And funny thing about Nick, which is annoying, is that he anticipates the needs of the folks around him, and he's generous to a fault. So even when he screws up, he's got so many nice things that he's done, so many acts of he acts out the ideas around commitment and love. A lot of
Mm.
people will say I love you. A lot of people will
Mhm.
be very you know, poetic about that, but he does loving things. He does things to say we're in this together kind of thing. So that made it pretty easy. Plus I think he's really smart.
Mm.
He has a way of making sure that he pulls away from the crowd, and very quickly you start judging everybody by the Nick standard. It's like,
Mm.
Nick wouldn't do that.
Mm.
Nick wouldn't say that. And so they fell away.
I love that. That makes sense to me. All the business people walking around talking about how great they are, and then you got the dude barefoot running through the woods.
Yeah, that was funny. And picking up puppies along the way, you
I
know,
love
like
that.
we were driving one night in the dark. We were driving from one spot in Jamaica back to the farm, and we come around a corner, and there's the tiniest thing in the road. It was the size of a squirrel, and of
Mm.
course he's not wearing shoes driving. And so he stops the car in the middle of the road, and we go chasing this puppy that somebody had thrown away because it was a female puppy.
Oh.
So he had to chase it into the bush, and he comes out with something the size of a squirrel with lots of like parasites and stuff. And there we are in the middle of the night wrapping this little thing and putting it in my hat. You
Oh
know,
my
we're taking
God.
it back to we called it Rhodey. Now she's a big girl. But you start counting up things like those. You go, here is something where he could have just run the car over the animal or left it in the woods, but there was generosity of spirit that says we could make this thing life better.
Mm.
And he does that. He does that with a lot of different things. And so I wanted to see what a company would be like that would be led by that kind of generosity.
Mm.
And that was important to me. You get to be 62, you've traveled, you've been wealthy, you've been poor, you've had a lot of experience. But what if you could be part of the ideal company, a
Mm.
company that could benefit people's lives who are dealing with cancer? You could create the mushrooms that could support them through that journey. You could create fabulous quality of mushroom to help with mental health. You could create opportunities for poor women in rural areas to be part of something they could be proud of. You could be the company that would give a young man who has no other option a place to grow. What if you could build that kind of a company, and you could work with these white folks who didn't fit the stereotype, that whole concept of what the North American had come to Jamaica and done with cannabis? What
Oh.
if it could be done different? What if we could do it and leave a space for the people of the country?
Mm.
And that intrigued me. And so, I drank the Kool-Aid. I said, I'm all in, and from here on, I'm not going to dance with the other boys at the party. It's gonna be me and you, kid, and
I
you know
love that.
we'll fight it through. But that's how,
Definitely.
yeah, that's
Definitely.
how Nick separates himself and still continue to do. Want to kill him sometime, but
Hey, that comes with that person too, doesn't it? That's part of the whole picture.
yes, I've had dreams of how hard you have to squeeze his neck for him
we
to
don't we don't have to go there, Terry. Well, as a I played 6 years in the NFL, and my life as a football player really left me, or contributed to a lot of concussions and brain damage.
Mhm.
Um, Depression and anxiety have been part of my internal mix for as long as I can remember. And I've always gravitated towards, thank God for the parents that I have. They were very holistically minded people who believed food is medicine. You get plenty of exercise, use whatever natural remedies are available before going to a
Mhm.
doctor to be prescribed some pharmaceutical pill. Um, and so coming out of my football career, I was dealing with a lot. I had a lot of I had a lot of healing to do. I had a lot of sort of rebuilding myself to happen. I had to reinvent myself. I had sort of experienced this complete decimation of myself emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I got somewhere along the line, I met this guy in Jacksonville, Florida, towards the end of my career with the Jaguars, who I called my witch doctor.
Mm.
And he was this little dude from Alabama. He was part Cherokee, grew up, with his grandmother making all sorts of potions and stews. And he was the first one who really introduced me to medicinal mushrooms, the lion's mane, the cordyceps, chaga, reishi, turkey tail, etc. And so coming out of my career, this has become a very integral part of my daily routine. I always throw some sort of medicinal mushroom into my coffee, sometimes even a little bit of psilocybin. But since partnering with you guys and coming into the fold with you and getting to know you, Terry, you guys make such a magnificent medicinal mushroom supplement from the lion's mane, the cordyceps, the reishi, the turkey tail. I love them all. The only one I haven't tried is the total wellness supplement, which I
Mm.
think is the mixture of all of them. But
Of all of them.
it's profound what these things can do for you and how they can help your brain heal and help your mind function better, function more optimally. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, life is about can you access your highest greatness as an individual? And what the universe manifested in the organism that is you, can you aspire and inspire to be the greatest version of yourself? And I believe that these mushrooms help you do that. They help you access that and they help you tap into that. So I thank you for all the work that you've done. And I feel really grateful to have met you and for Riley to have introduced me to you guys. Um, I want you to talk a little bit about Terri. There's been a handful of books written about it, probably over the last couple decades, about going back to the deep intelligence of mushrooms, fungi, the mycelial network that runs underground that connects basically all the trees, all the plants, all the organisms that are connected directly to the earth, and talk a little bit about that interconnectedness of things. And then that'll lead me into my next question for you, which I know you'll have a great answer for.
it's, it's it's a really big question, and in my experience, mushroom is one of those 360 um, solutions for us. When things like Roundup started to get pressure in North America,
Mm,
they exported it by the tankful to places like Jamaica. And so even when we took over the 50-acre farm, the worms were killed, the bugs were killed,
mm,
the soil was dead. There was no mushrooms. It was like there was no mushroom. When you soak the soil with, you know, glyphosate and Roundup, it doesn't just take out the weed that you're aiming for, it impacts the bees, it impacts the worm.
mm,
So bringing the mushroom back to the farm was one of the ways that we started to just bring everything back, because we had to actually create an environment. So we had goats and put the goats down so that the goats could bring that manure back to the soil, and then we started seeding with whatever mushroom mycelium we could find, and then we had to buy some red wrigglers from California to put down. And so it was symbolic of what was also happening in the
mm,
communities. And that when the wake, the women who are now part of our network, when we started working with them, they had become as disconnected as, because they weren't living in the same communities that they were born.
mm,
When I was a child, you lived in a larger extended family that the lady next door was your aunt or your cousin. And all of a sudden people in Jamaica have become very mobile, so you would be born in one part of the island and then you move to another part, and you didn't have that transfer of knowledge about the environment. It wasn't there because you had glossy advertisement about why you should spray down with you know, glyphosate, why it was good for you.
mm,
And so there was no built-in shared wisdom anymore about
mm,
how to be. And what doing the mushroom has helped us with the people we work with and in the community, it is in regenerating and seeing that fungi sits at a very important place in the ecosystem and in the community.
mm. Man, that's so profound. That story to illuminate on the overarching nature of the mushrooms and how you were able to replenish the earth of your community through the cultivation of the mushrooms.
Yeah, it it travels a lot. It's not as simple as when you look at it and you go, oh, it's mushroom and we're gonna eat it. But
Mm-hmm.
there is
Yeah.
there's so much. Like for instance,
Mm-hmm.
people go out and eat and take pills called lovastatin.
Mm.
And most
Mm-hmm.
people don't know that lovastatin is actually the statin that comes from oyster mushrooms.
Oh my God.
And if you should include 2 ounces of oyster mushroom to your daily diet, which
Mm.
you could have at breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever, you would actually be getting pure 100% digestible lovastatin
Mm.
that you could take and improve your cholesterol without any side effects.
That's amazing.
But instead, we buy the pills that
Right.
have side effects like joint pains and eventually impacts your kidney and reduce your kidney function. But you could actually just like put that aside, and whether it's dried oyster mushroom or fresh oyster mushroom, you could just have some oyster mushrooms.
Mm.
So you find yourself often wanting to just talk, wanting to just yell, wanting to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, there is so much solutions here. You like take a little turkey tail and improve your immunity. You know, it's almost like you want to be a preacher. You want to find your tribe and say, hey, have you thought about this? You could add some rishi to this and it would
Yeah.
do this, you know? So I have to temper myself. I have to tell myself.
Well, Terri, I think you are preaching to the world through your work and through your energy and through everything that you do, you know. And I mean, sharing your information, your knowledge, and your wisdom on this podcast, it's going to reach a lot of people and expand their understanding of this thing out in the world, mushrooms, fungi, how that works, this magnificent creature that we have access to, that the universe has given us, that the universe has created for us. And also, you know, about themselves. And I think that's so powerful, you know, because I feel as though, and this is sort of goes into my next question, which you answered so in such a wonderful way when we were talking on the phone about it. Because to go along with that, this, I guess it's part of, it seems to me to be part of Western culture or the first world civilization, is that human beings have been so disconnected from
Mhm.
themselves and from nature. And we've really, you know, through the amplification of technology and social media, etc., we're really in a serious spiritual and emotional crisis.
Yep.
And things like mushrooms uh, and other psychedelic compounds, the concepts of meditation and yoga and breath work are all sort of coming to the forefront, because it feels to me as though the energy of the earth, Gaia, the intelligence that we are all a part of, is saying it's time to heal, it's time to, here are these tools that we need. And on our call, you said, you know, Eben, that none of this stuff is new. We've had this for a long time. And we've had other crises in the past that you have lived through, you know, with Vietnam and you know, other global human crises that happened, and you know, the hippies came in, and you know, this era of free love came in that really elevated the human consciousness at that time. So I feel like, you know, to your point, with in the microcosm of your community being disconnected, like the whole world is in need of deeper connection, and mushrooms are really a tool to help get us there.
Hmm. Um, it's it's really interesting. I watched the 2 debates,
Mm.
and
Oh God.
and I, Canada just had a couple of by-elections, and the person in charge of managing them, we go way back, the wife of my mentor.
Mm.
Um, and I'm looking at how well behaved Jamaica was recently in the middle of COVID when they did their election. And you think, oh, life just comes around in a circle.
Uh-huh.
It's all 360. I say that a lot, like close the loop is 360, but every time it's like an upward spiral. Some parts of it just feels bad, and right
Mm,
now it feels bad.
mm,
It's sad, like, we people are lonely, people are away from their grandkids, and but it's not the first time, and lots of people are gonna lose a lot of money because we are giving up homes, and we're
mm,
switching, and we're a lot of people are being afraid, and when they get afraid they pull away. But this is just a cycle of things.
mm,
It's the mushroom. I think it was the 60s when somebody introduced someone to what the Mexicans had known for a while. But
mm,
the native people of North America have had their peyote.
mm. Yeah.
The Amazon has had its ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
The Rastas have had their special weed and their ceremonies.
Mm.
There are roots that the Africans
Yeah.
feed, the Maasai feed their children. One of the things, I studied anthropology at the University of Toronto, and one of the things that one of my favorite professor would say is that we don't have rites of passage.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Canadians didn't, or Americans, white Americans,
Yeah.
European, don't have rites of passage. The Jewish little boy gets to go through his experience.
Uh-huh.
The African Maasai gets to go through his experience, and the native sends you out on a vision quest, and you get to go be by yourself and be silent for a bit and figure
Mm,
out who you are and what you want. And I think COVID is forcing us to have vision quest,
mm.
is to pull away from it's stopping. No, you can't busy yourself with another trip to the restaurants, and maybe
Yes.
you have to lay off Tinder for a bit, and maybe talk to the same talk to the same girl, 3 or 4 times instead of hit it and leave it. um so
Yeah,
this is kind of like, we could view this as a vision quest, but
totally.
the kids in the 70s who found LSD and found psychedelics and walked around and saying peace and love, man.
Mm.
It's like it's all about love, and they came to Jamaica and danced on the beaches. How are they? How are they any different from the kids in the 80s
Mm.
when we were rediscovering New Age? Remember
Mm.
that? When there were bookstores that popped up all over. I think in Toronto we had the Omega bookstore
Mm.
at Yorkville. And then you could go down there and get tarot reading. And we found out that crystals had life, and meditation was a thing. So having seen the 70s and then the 80s, because I was a child in the 70s, but then in the 80s, I was a young mother. And that was my getaway. You leave the kids with my mom, and then I would go checking out crystals and
Mm.
collecting them and doing meditation and finding out about Reiki and all of that. And the
Mm.
90s, and following people like Stuart Wilde and Wayne Dyer, and
Mm.
and doing walking meditation. It's what you guys are doing now.
Mm.
That's just the latest incarnation of it, because eventually we do the circle.
Mm.
You get you're so disconnected from nature and from each other and from a higher purpose that eventually you come home. And mushrooms is the thing that's helping us to come home.
Mm,
Again, it's coming home. It's saying, hey, there's some of us that can help you heal your broken spirit, and
mm,
there's some of us that can help you heal the cells that are going wanky for your cancer. And but finding other people who have found mushroom, there is a part of it that brings you back to the tribe, where in a broken world, in a place where you have a president that stokes the fire,
mm,
that promote the, separation between people. Isn't it nice that I don't have to worry that you are worried about my color?
mm,
That Nick and I could be the different keys on a piano, and
mm.
we can make great fungi music together. And it's about being a part of the tribe. I don't have to be anything more, and I don't need to pretend I'm anything less. And the mushroom gives us that safe space to be members of this tribe. And then I think together we can create a wake in our behind us, that
Mm,
after we've gone, we will have made a difference.
mm. Terri, amazing. I love that so much.
True.
Um, I've got a couple questions for you just to round this thing out. I know you got to get to your meeting.
No, my
Um,
day belongs to you, my bank.
oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
I said I'm going to hang out with my bud today, and so
I
that's
love
what
that.
I'm doing.
I love that, Terri. Um, so first of all, I mean, that was so profound. I think that's so amazing and fills me with a ton of hope. And I love what you're saying about psilocybin or the mushrooms, period, bringing us home and bringing us into this new tribe, or showing us that we have a place in this tribe. Because I think at the end of the day, many people, many Americans in general, and perhaps Canadians too. I've never been to Canada, but I imagine the North American ethos is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we all think we have to be so much more than we are. We think that we have to do this thing or have this success or have this car, have this house, et cetera, and otherwise we're a complete failure. And we've lost sight of the fact that our the simple act of being here is all the magnificent experience that we really need in this
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love that. And I have experienced that through my journeys with psilocybin in particular, and DMT, ayahuasca, which I've done as well. And it's all the same. It's all bringing us home. It's all bringing us back to
Mm-hmm.
center. Um, so one of my questions, with your anthropological background, I'm curious about your thoughts on the, for lack of a better term, the only name I know it by is the Stoned Ape Theory. Have you heard of
Okay.
this?
No, fill me in.
Okay, so the Stoned Ape Theory was put forth by this guy Terrence McKenna,
Mm-hmm.
and he's one of the psychedelic um, psychonauts of I believe the 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm not exactly sure his
You're
era.
proving my point. We've been around a long
Yes,
time.
yes, exactly. So he did a lot of speaking and a lot of talks about the origins of man, philosophy, religion, based on his insights that he gathered through his psychedelic journeys. And one of his thoughts on early man was that as early man was coming out of Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and they were hunter-gatherer people, they were nomads, so they were very mobile, and these people would follow the herds of animals out of Africa, and along the way, in the dung heaps of these animals would be psychedelic mushrooms growing, and these early men were eating these mushrooms, and this is partially to explain this vast explosion of
Mm-hmm.
evolution in the human brain, and
Mm-hmm.
also in our conceptualization of a higher power, of God, of spirit, of
Mm-hmm.
a greater intelligence that connected us. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. So basically, that's the idea: is that as early man was making his way out of Africa, following the herds of animals that he was hunting, eating the mushrooms that were growing out of the dung heaps, and having this explosive evolution of neurology on the way, gaining insights into himself, into nature, into the grand scheme of the universe and God, etc. I'm curious what you think about
Oof.
that.
Oh, you and I have to set a plan for hanging out in Jamaica.
Oh, well, we will. We will.
Yeah, you need a big plate of cooked delicious mushroom and some Jamaican bread and some lemongrass tea in the sunshine for this one because we
All
could.
right.
My in the 90s, I spent a lot of time with I guess a weird unguru guru named Stuart Wilde.
Mm,
I could hang out with the folks like Wayne Dyer and those kind of guys. We were
I
trying
love those guys.
to answer these questions and but back then we would be up in Ireland looking for leprechauns. So you're doing funky stuff in my 30s. That was one of the stuff that we were doing, and I think I buy that it feels right, that
Mm,
idea,
mm,
but I wanna flip it on you and say, but what's happening now,
mm,
where only a small amount of us are stepping out in to explore these ideas ourselves. So many of us have settled to being part
mm,
of the matrix,
yeah.
where we just want other people to give us the answers.
Mm,
We we let them pick what we watch on YouTube because
mm-hmm,
the algorithm does that. What will happen up to this point? We were all kind of improving as we went,
uh-huh.
but now it in a kind of way you have to be a fringe dweller like we are,
Mm-hmm.
where you actually get up and go, okay, I'm gonna have the bulletproof coffee and I'm gonna,
Yes.
I'm gonna drink the green juice, and I want to take my microdose, and every once in a while I know I need a tune up, so I need to do a mega trip. um, we're in the minority, right? You
Yeah.
it's like, because most of us, it gets really comfortable. It gets
Uh-huh. Yeah.
really, I don't see that explosion of knowledge
Mm,
as our growth as part of something for the general public anymore.
mm,
I think our generation may be the last one that was allowed to explore, because right now everything is being, the data they gather on us, they say they're giving us choices, but one of the choices that we're missing is being the one to do the exploration ourselves.
mm. Yes. Hey, Terry, I'm fucking with you 1,000%. And that's everything I do, every podcast I do, every time I speak, every time I post on social media, my goal is to get people to unplug.
Mhm.
If my post leads a person to delete social media from their phone or to get off or to take a walk outside, I feel as though I've done my job. And, I think that's part of this time that we're in, with coronavirus,
Yes.
etc. Like you said, it's forcing people
Mhm.
to A, go within themselves and to find out who they are and what their
Mhm.
grand purpose is here. B, I mean, you know this, Terry, the darkness is unrelenting,
It is. It is.
but so too is the light, you
Yes.
know, when
But it's
you,
it's hard. It's hard not to like. I was
yes.
I was talking to Nick this morning about my LinkedIn. I went on LinkedIn once. I think I started filling out the paperwork for the questionnaire for LinkedIn, and I stopped.
Yeah.
This was like 10 years ago. Do you think that LinkedIn gives me a break? Like, I get today, I found that there was like 32 notifications from LinkedIn. I said, I don't even have a LinkedIn account.
Oh, yeah.
Why is
There's,
it, why is LinkedIn sending me emails about you should get on? I haven't checked into Facebook. I've pulled away from all of it, and it's relentless. They send the stuff to your phone, to your email, to like what's wrong
mm-hmm.
with you? Why aren't
Yeah.
you comment? No, you can't look at anything on LinkedIn unless you agree to give me your information. So it
Yeah.
becomes this really philosophical fight I'm having with LinkedIn and Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you where I am. I don't, the people
Yeah.
who are really my friends know where I am and what's wrong with me. I
Yeah.
don't need to update the whole world on where I am and what I'm doing and why are you in Canada and why aren't you in Jamaica? Like, I don't need to tell you that.
I agree. I
So,
agree.
but it's hard.
It
It's
is hard.
hard to make that to step away. But my teacher Stuart, while before he died, he always said we need to become fringe dwellers
Mm-hmm. I
because
love that.
from the fringes
Yeah.
you can watch and make the decisions for yourself, travel around the edges,
Yes. Yes.
ask the question. Every time someone says, this is the way it's done,
Mm.
ask them why.
Mm.
Because everything in the material world is someone's opinion. The
Ah.
chair you sit on is an opinion. It's just that the person was going to make it said, I think this will be the best shape for it. But
Yeah.
is it the best shape for you? So everything is an opinion. Your car is an opinion. The clothes you wear is an opinion. Make sure that most of the opinions are yours.
Ah, Terry. Fuck. Mic drop there. That's it. No,
You
I
know?
totally I agree 1,000%. And I'm preaching that all the time. I think that this is the time of, I've heard people call it the Great Awakening. And I would say that this world that we find ourselves in 2020 is the greatest manifestation the darkness has ever realized in the enslavement of humankind. And, it's up to us. It's really up to us. It's like you said, you have to empower yourself. You have to take responsibility for your life, and you have to be willing to be a seeker
Yes.
and get out of that comfort. And fucking mushrooms will help you get there.
Mushroom gives you the space.
Uh-huh.
The trick
Yes.
to mushroom and why I think it works for anxiety and depression and all of that. Mushroom interrupts same old, same old.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
every morning that you wake up, the mushroom gives you it's probably 15 seconds of space. And if
Uh-huh.
you use that space the right way, you can choose that today I'll be happy. I won't go back to that, whatever the hell was bothering me last night when I went to sleep.
Mm.
It gives you a chance to reset. That's my favorite thing about mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're talking about cooking up some magic mushrooms with a little bit of onion and sprinkling it on your salad, which like it is a lot better than the pills. Like you eat, if you take fresh psilocybin and you chop it up and you use some sesame oil and some um, garlic and all of that. People say psilocybin tastes bad. That's not true.
I
You
love that.
you just haven't tried it. And then you add some pink Himalayan salt to that. And then you use that as the topping on your salad dressing with a little avocado and some organic greens. That is the way to enjoy your psilocybin.
That
But
sounds incredible.
tastes a lot better than in the tea. And the heat and the oil
Mm.
from cooking it, it really pushes up the potency of the psilocybin. But when you have a routine, and you have to add the other mushrooms too, eat a little bit of oyster mushrooms for your lovastatin, and have some lion's mane, because that's going to help your memory, but it also tastes amazing.
Love that.
When you put all of that much, the side effect of all of that is that you create more
Mm.
space to think, just
Oh,
15 seconds to go, which one do I choose to be? Do I choose to focus on creating my own reality,
mm.
or do I fall into CNNs?
I love that. I love what you said too. Everything is an opinion. It's so true. Uh,
Please.
what is Don Miguel Ruiz, one of my favorite guys, the Four Agreements. And he talks
Oh,
about,
I love that.
yeah, and he talks about, there's this thing of when we're born into someone else's dream.
Yep.
And that can sound really abstract to someone in a first world mainframe of thought.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, you really are like someone dreamt up, thought about, envisioned the community that you live in, the house that you live in, how we get around, our vehicles. And it's about our choice in accepting those things as being true or not. Like, you don't have to drive your car. You don't
Nope.
have to live in a particular way. You can live however you feel is most true to you and your life and your experience. And I think that's so powerful what you said about
Just an opinion.
mushrooms, mushrooms being a tool to give you space. And for me, it can be mushrooms, it can be meditation, it has to be a disciplined practice though, if it's not something that's like a straight shot rocket ship to outer space the way mushrooms can be.
But
Because
after a while, it becomes easier. It becomes the new practice.
yes,
And
yes,
when you just start in, like for the first 21 days, yeah. I
right.
haven't walked, I haven't walked properly for 6 years.
Mm.
6 years ago, a goat kind of on the farm knocked me over, fractured my hip. For a
Oh
year, we
my
hoped that
God.
it would grow back together. And then 5 years ago, I had a total hip replacement, and the doctor that did it put the wrong hip in and put it
Oh,
the wrong way. And so
oh God.
for 5 years, I got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then I think I was in so much pain that my husband literally handed me to Nick and say, take her off the island and fix her. And so, so that's what I've been doing in Canada. And the new habit, once I had a nice long 5-hour surgery to fix it, and once it was put back together, it meant that I needed new habits.
Mm.
I needed to talk to the muscle. I needed to quietly say, hey, Your job is to help move this. And it's been frustrating, but now I can literally walk a mile without a cane. I haven't walked anywhere without crutches or a cane. So I had to teach a new part of my body how to behave. I had to teach my brain how to behave. I had to force myself to do the little things, stand there and
Hmm.
squeeze the ball between your knees. And but now it's my new normal. So every time I get up, I have something to think about. And so the products from that wake produce, whether it's the supplements or what I've had to do to change my mindset with psilocybin, I see what I can promote what we do because I'm a really great walking commercial. This
Yeah.
is what at 62 you face your fears. I was afraid of small spaces. I couldn't take an
Uh,
elevator by myself. I live on the fifth floor in Toronto. So I need to go from the parking to my apartment. I can't have somebody come pick me up every time, but mushroom gives me that space. Are
mm,
you going to be afraid or are you going to be bold? Are you
mm,
going to like, so it's important. I think what we do can change the world. And, can't change everything, but on the little parts of the world where you and I get to occupy, we can make it better.
mm. No doubt, Terry. I think you are making the world a better place.
I think we are doing a pretty good job. I am so pleased to be a member of your tribe in a world where we are mean to each other because of the color of our skin or because different beliefs about politics. It is so amazing that you are my friend and I'm yours, and we can talk for 2 hours and find common ground. It is magic.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Terry, I mean, this has been so awesome, and I'm sure we'll have you back on. I'll have you on the pod anytime. I would love to have you on again because I have some more mushroom questions. But
Well, tell you what, I'm going to set up a studio in Jamaica, and you can, when you just want to talk, you can call me anytime. I'll be
I love that.
your Jamaican correspondent. I'll find interesting Jamaican people that you should be talking to.
I love that.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I hope the next time we hang out, it's in person in Jamaica.
Oh, now that would be awesome. Cool. That
Yeah,
would, then I will cook for you and,
I
ask me.
can't wait. I can't
I'm a
wait for that.
pretty awesome. And the other thing about mushroom, it allows you to own what you're good at. So part of my superpower is being able to cook
Hey,
and,
that is.
and just be a good lover. I'm like, I just love people with food. So that's one way I can love you. I can feed you. So I'm keeping a spot open. There's always going to be a place at my table for you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Um, Before I let you go, is there anything, any last comments to leave my peeps with?
Oh.
Yeah, I think you said it all. You said it all.
I think in a world where the mainstream media focuses on what divides us, and where you have presidents and leaders that talk about the division, it just remember that each of us have been born with the same power and the same right. Like
Mm,
there's no hierarchy. The universe don't see the president as being more important than you.
mm,
So you don't have to wait for the leaders to be a leader.
mm,
Remember that you cannot walk through this world without creating a wake behind you.
mm.
Make sure when you look behind you that the wake you've created is something your mom and your grandmother would be proud of.
I love that.
I love
That's
hanging with
beautiful.
you. And all you have to do anytime you just want to chat, baby, is call me.
I definitely will, Terry.
All right.
Um, well, Hey, you guys, thank you so much for listening and for supporting this show. I hope you got as much out of that conversation as I did. As always, the greatest way you can support this show is by rating it and reviewing it and sharing it with your friends and loved ones. I think that's about all we've got for today, everybody. So until next time, lots of love to you guys. Stay in the light, stay in the positivity, keep growing, and I'll see you next time. Peace.